G'day, how you doing? Welcome to, is it the third episode of Useful Things for Ordinary Christians? I think it might be. And today I'm looking at a resource that has been a real godsend, literally, for me over the years. And I hope it will be for you too. You see, often one of the great challenges in faith is to wrestle through complex questions, and there are plenty of them. Questions where the Bible isn't as clear as we'd like it to be, or whether there's different sides, or both saying that they know, what the Bible says about things, or sometimes when atheists have very clear and rational explanations why there can't be a God, or vice versa, or there's all kinds of complex discussions that need to be had. Otherwise, that stuff can shake your faith a bit. And I think what I'm going to point you to today is one of the most useful tools for anybody wanting to understand how to think well about faith and life and some of the more complicated questions you'll bump into. And the resource I'm going to point you to is a podcast and also a YouTube channel. So here it is. This is the resource I promised you. This is Unbelievable with Justin Brierley. And Unbelievable is an unbelievable resource. The reason it's such a useful resource is simply because it is a very well-moderated conversation, usually between two sides of an argument, and often between atheists and Christians. One of the dangers can be we can end up in an echo chamber with people who only think like us. There's something really important about hearing the solid arguments against Christianity, and also the solid arguments for different sides of debates that we find ourselves in on a regular basis. I'm not sure how long ago I first encountered Unbelievable, but I have, and I'm not sure exactly how many episodes I've listened to, but it's been heaps. And as you can see, so they're up to episode number 183. The show is moderated by Justin Brierley, as you can see in the logo there. And what the wonderful thing about it is you can go to any podcast app and you'll be able to find it. They're updated weekly. It is a radio show that's normally hosted in England on the Premier Christian Radio Network. But you can see, I don't know if you can start to, even just from looking at the screen now, you start to see some of the names. Basically, they have the leading names, not just the leading Christian names, but also the leading names in academia, the leading atheist scholars, and Justin brings them together in debates and conversations around some of the most complex issues. So if we go through here, the genealogical Adam and Eve, so all the question about creation and evolution, that's a recurring one that comes up over and over again. To God and the God of love and the problem of evil, Hinduism, conversion and religious freedom. There's has the church misunderstood St. Paul and his theology. Alistair McGrath and Bart Weinstein is religion, a useful fiction or ultimate truth. Look, you name a topic and it's been here. Like they've had a show about it. Speaking in tongues. They've got transgender and how does the church respond to transgender issues. Abortion clinics. Comedy Christianity and being offensive. Are we raising a snowflake generation? And some of the leading scholars, like people like Jonathan Haidt, I'm fairly sure I can't think of a leading atheist scholar that they haven't had on there, or a leading Christian scholar. So, some familiar names, some unfamiliar names, and whether it's Richard Dawkins or John Lennox, scrolling through a lot. I'll just let you, for a second, have a bit of a listen. You get a sense of this is this most current episode.
Justin Brierley, the show that aims to get you thinking. Well, every Saturday evening now on Premier Christian Radio in our new time slot of 6 in the evening, but available at any time of the day or night via the podcast. And you can find out more about the show and all the good stuff that's on offer at Premier Christian Radio.
So you can hear Justin's got an English accent. and that, and I think that is actually a helpful thing. It means that it's not, he is actually a very clever moderator, and he does facilitate genuine dialogue and comes in with a sort of inquisitive mind. You can scrub through here and let's have a listen.
Week where they're helping the poor 6 months on, I think, just about since
let's see if we can scrub through here. I don't know how much of this is.
And the story is that he leads procession, asking for.
Okay, we won't get into too much of that, but you'll see. Very topical. Christendom's response to plague and pandemic, and the leading scholars here: Tom Holland, best-selling book at the moment about the history of Christianity; Mike Bird, who is an Australian academic; and Marcus Walter. These are some of the leading names in academia, and this is the current episode. I really am grateful for this resource, because often for me growing up, there were questions I couldn't find easy answers to, and they're often questions you felt like you really shouldn't be asking, but you need space to ask the really difficult questions. And I appreciate Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." We don't have to be scared of truth. In fact, we need to seek truth out and to be ready to ask the difficult questions. And that's what this podcast does. Now, I'll show you its counterpart. It's got a YouTube channel as well. So this is the YouTube page, and you'll get a glimpse. There's a bit of pretty useful to know that there's two sort of things going on here. There's your standard unbelievable shows, but then they've got this thing called the big conversation, which are bigger, longer debates usually between a Christian and an atheist, and the names of people like Dave Rubin and John Lennox is there, Tom Holland and AC Grayling. You'll find Alistair McGrath, Jordan Peterson, Steve Pinker, Nick Spencer. Cancel that and cancel. Close the player. Thank you very much. We've got, and they've got a whole bunch of 90-second series, and questions like, why does God allow cancer? Is Jesus just a myth? The 90-second things. This is another podcast I'll probably talk about at some point, but the Ask NT Write Anything podcast and series, I am so grateful for NT Wright. He's a scholar that I really appreciate, and they've got a podcast where he just answers a whole bunch of different questions. But all these videos are here and available. So basically the reason I'm wanting to highlight this podcast and this video channel is that if you, like me, wrestle with difficult questions, then you need a resource where you can hear two sides of a discussion, not just one person giving their debate, and hear the intricacies and the depths of ideas and the moral issues associated with things and the biblical references. This show for me has been it's been important for me to be able to find somewhere where I can think things through and get pointed in the direction of resources that help me on that journey. So I really recommend this program. It's unbelievable, the podcast, and it is also the unbelievable YouTube site, and with it, and particularly the big conversation full-length debates. So all those are there, and I recommend putting it there on your phone or on your podcast player, checking it out on YouTube, subscribing. But if you get to a point where there's a difficult question you're wrestling with, and you name it, that any of the thorny questions that the people in the church have wrestled with, from gay marriage through to women in ministries. You've already seen transgender issues, the historicity of the Bible, and how come there seems to be discrepancies in the Bible, through to the Richard Dawkins' big his complaints about Christianity, all that sort of stuff. Basically, this show takes seriously any kind of criticisms of Christianity and finds the most stringent critics and puts them with real thinkers and creates a space for a dialogue. That's what I really appreciate it, and that's why this is one of my useful things for ordinary Christians.